We immerse ourselves in Switzerland. 795 miles of beauty await us on this presentation. My name is Lynn, and I am pleased to be one of your presenters today. And I'm also joined by a very special guest, Martin Oester from Swiss Travel Systems, who will be our guide as we talk about all things Swiss, from destinations to incredible trains. Before we begin, just a couple quick notes. First, we're going to hold all questions until the end. And so if you have questions during the presentation, please type them in the question box in the GoToWebinar toolbar, and we will cover them at the end of the session. And second, there will be 3 polling questions today, and we encourage you to participate. So let's go ahead and get started with a little introduction to Vacations by Rail. We are the leading rail vacations company in the United States and the trusted authority on rail. We have the largest collection of vacations to destinations around the globe, and the cornerstone of each itinerary is a rail journey aboard at least one of the world's iconic trains. Vacations by Rail is a great rail journeys company, which means we're backed by more than 45 years of experience in the specialty of global rail tours. We are a member of the National Tour Association, American Bus Association, and we're AARP's preferred rail provider. And in addition to unmatched vacations, we offer best-in-class customer care from your first call or email to your return from your trip. Now, when I think of train travel in Switzerland, the first thing that comes to mind to me is on time, followed by perfect for any season. Switzerland is known for its extensive train network, and it's really lauded for its on-time performance, and it recognized around the world for its sleek and iconic trains. Now, a rail vacation in Switzerland is immersive from start to finish. There's not really a doubt in my mind that it is the best way to get a new perspective on the region through which you're traveling. And traveling by train is it's the perfect way to cover long distances and get there rather quickly. You're sitting back and relaxing and watching that beautiful scenery as you leave the driving and navigation to someone else. It gives you a great way to watch that changing scenery and arrive in your destination rested and refreshed. And I know that as Martin shares more information about the trains and the experiences you can have in Switzerland, you're going to feel that same way. So what's included with a Vacations by Rail journey? It's a rail journey with us offers a distinctive and memorable experience with a well-planned itinerary that's packed with quality inclusions ranging from that iconic train that we talked about earlier and centrally located hotels to comprehensive sightseeing and authentic experiences. And I feel passionately that Switzerland is the place where all of this combines so well. So before we turn things over to Martin, I want to launch our first polling question. So let me go ahead and do that. The first question is, have you vacationed in Switzerland? So I'll leave this poll open for 30 seconds to give everyone a chance to participate. All right, it looks like everyone has had a chance to lodge their answer with us. So I'm going to close the poll. And Martin, 62% of today's attendees have not been to Switzerland. So we have several people who have enjoyed the country. I'm sure you're going to offer some new insights, as well as provide a great introduction to the country and its trains. So I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Hello, everyone. This is Martin speaking to you from the Office of Switzerland Tourism in New York. It doesn't quite look outside of my office like on the picture here. I'm presenting and sharing beautiful pictures of Switzerland, of the lush and green and snowy mountains. That's where we navigate this today with the beautiful train and public transport network, because it's the best way, the single best way to discover Switzerland. Thank you, Lynn, for your introduction and providing so much inspiration about it already. So I'm happy to share my perspective here. Switzerland, what comes to your mind when you hear Switzerland? We have a couple of wonderful cliches that get along with Switzerland. First of all, the cheese. That is something we eat in great amounts. My favorite is to melt the cheese, and then we call it a raclette, a French term, and that's especially also a dish we have in the winter time. And then obviously year round we eat tons of chocolate. And why is the chocolate from Switzerland so delicious? Because it is so green in Switzerland. We have this fantastic grass, and the cows produce whole milk, and that makes the taste of the chocolate do so well. That's so a nice cliche we always play for Switzerland. And of course, it is about the cows. Wherever you navigate through Switzerland, you find our lovely cows in the most beautiful, stunning, natural surroundings. That's why they're so happy and produce such a good milk. And another cliche, and that's what we talk about today, is the trains. And often you find them together, going along very well. The cows and the trains, all over the place you find trains in Switzerland. Here, a typical image from the Jungfraujoch train above the resort village of Grindelwald. It's a cogwheel that gets you up to the beautiful heights of the Swiss Alps. That is a typical image of Switzerland, and that's what is one of my experience for Switzerland itinerary. Right now, Switzerland still more looks like that. We're in the middle of a busy winter operation, and our trains, they also navigate in the winter. We clear the tracks, and on some areas, like up here on the Bermina Pass, it's a lot of work to keep those tracks open year round. But was a fantastic way it is to experience the rail system also in the winter time, like in the Glacier Express here on the Oberalp Pass above Andermatt, where they are skiing out there with the most amazing conditions. The trains in Switzerland, they get you everywhere. They connect you from the cities all the way up to the mountain resorts. So it is really a perfect public transport network like no other country profits from. It's the densest public transport network with frequent connections, and it is run by hundreds of different transport companies, whether it's trains or buses or cable cars. But they all work together, they coordinate their system, and one together it is the Swiss travel system. It's one public transport network with coordinated timetables and fares. All together, we're looking at a small place in the world, so it's about short distances. You have direct connections, for example, from Zurich Airport all the way to Interlaken or to Lucerne or to Basel and so on. So it's really easy to connect to different places. It's high density in terms of regular interval, so always at the same minute after the hour, those trains leave in either one or another direction. Usually it's hourly connections. Between the cities, it's every 30 minutes at least, the intervals. So it's really easy to navigate this kind of system because it's one and the same. Also, one thing that is the nature of it, because we have such a high frequency, you generally don't need seat reservations. That's just for the premium panoramic trains, which we are going to talk about. So to give you a few reasons, or to sum it up, why the best way to travel Switzerland is the trains. Of course, it is the panoramic views, and that doesn't, it's not just said for the official panoramic lines that we are going to look at. Switzerland is really very, very scenic from the very beginning on. As you leave the airport, you will see lakes and mountains and villages out there, and you definitely want to be at the window, at the panoramic window, taking pictures rather than holding a map or a steering wheel and driving through Switzerland. That's why we have this fantastic train system in place. So benefit from that, lean back in the comfort of your seats, enjoy a coffee, talk to each other, and even go to the restaurants on board. We also have services along with the system, like the luggage can be shipped from everywhere to everywhere. And this way, it makes train travel throughout Switzerland really easy. It's also very accessible, and this picture actually is really not fake. You switch from a train onto a boat or to a bus in like no time. This is in Brienz, just next to Interlaken, where the Lucerne Interlaken Express stops, and within a minute you're on the boat or on the iconic yellow postal bus, and the timetables are harmonized, so the boat arrives at the same time when the train arrives, and this way you switch on back and forth. And if you would turn around 180 degrees here on these pictures, you would connect to the Brienzer Roton, which is a cogwheel train on the other side of this train. So that's all interconnected, and this is the way to navigate the system. Go beyond the trains and use also the other forms of public transport. Who doesn't want to talk or experience a destination the same way like the locals do? And that's really the way to, because the Swiss, they don't just commute on their trains. They go to visit friends, and they go to do events, and they go to do hiking and skiing on these trains. So that's the way to meet the locals and travel like the locals do. Another great reason is really to change between the different modes of transportation. That's not only on the ground or on the water, it's also up in the air. Think of Switzerland's topography. How about riding an open top deck gondola, which is totally connected with the rail station down below? That is also a great reason why to pick public transport in Switzerland, because it really gets you far beyond everywhere the country. And to make a perfect combo for you, we created the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland, which is a brand which has its own label, and it is the itinerary suggestion. Often we get the question, well, I have 5 days of Switzerland, or I have 10 days. Where should I go? And all together, we created the Grand Train Tour to suggest what are the most beautiful train lines and beyond. That gets you from the cities all the way up to the alpine resorts. You don't miss all the most famous landmarks. You fit in the mountain excursions, the museums, all what Switzerland is about, lakes and mountains, and of course also throughout the different cultural regions. Like there is 4 different languages in Switzerland. That's our itinerary suggestion, and the thing is, it's not a firm itinerary that takes a specific amount of time. It is and altogether it's a network of 1,200 kilometers or 795 miles that can be traveled either way and year-round. So it is just a collection of this colorful line, the most colorful lines on our dense network map of public transportation that you are free to combine with. And some of these lines we are going to go to have a bit of a closer look at with the slides coming. Just want to link to the product here of Vacations per Rail. They do have a Grand Train Tour of Switzerland, escorted or also individual trip, and you see the map is the same one. You travel on all these beautiful rail lines. It's the combination of these, and there is to say also all other trips of Vacations per Rail travel somewhere along the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland. So let's go and present you to the premium panoramic trains. That's the official category. We have only 5 of which. That are the trains with the dome cars that have a predominantly touristic purpose, and obviously they are on the most wonderful panoramic rail lines in the Alps. And there is the famous ones like this one here. It's called the Il Trenino Rosso in Italian because it connects us with Tirano in Italy. It's actually my favorite of the premium panoramic trains. It's the Bermina Express. It travels north-south from Chur, north side of the Alps, across Bermina Pass. And on that journey, it makes 6,000 feet vertical difference without the use of a cogwheel. So you can imagine it's a pretty spectacular journey with viaducts and circular tunnels and so on. And it gets you to places like Alp Grün, that's a majestic viewpoint, restaurants overlooking glacier and waterfalls where you can simply not drive. Only the train gets you to this place. It's the combo with Italy, as I said. Here a few details about the Panini Express. So that's a 4-hour journey if you go all the way down to Tirano, and there is a bus that connects you over to Lugano, which is the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland, where you can board the other trains again. So that's the information. It's a year-round operation, and it connects also with the Glacier Express. The Glacier Express is probably our flagship of all the trains, which I'm sure you know or heard of first when it's about trains in Switzerland. It connects Zermatt and St. Moritz, so the 2 most well-known fashionable ski resorts high up in the mountains. And the train crosses the entire Swiss Alps from east to west. And that's why it is also an 8-hour journey. Technically, you can travel nowhere within Switzerland for 8 hours because Switzerland is fairly small. But that train does a lot of up and down. It partly runs on a cogwheel. It goes across Oberalp Pass that we've seen at the beginning. So that makes it an 8-hour full journey. And that's why also you have your lunch on board of this train. No matter what class you're sitting on, there is a second class or first class coaches. Your meal is served at your seat there. And beyond that, since a couple of years now, you have also a class that is a top first class. It is called the Excellence Class Service. So that is a really limited, highly exclusive experience. There's only 20 seats per direction each day offered. So that product is often booked out, and definitely you need a reservation for that. There is a concierge service, and there is really fine dining along this journey, and an own bar in the train, the concierge that takes care of everything. So that's why it comes with a supplement on top of a first class ticket, and it is really a spectacular exclusive rail experience that I heartily recommend to everybody. Another one here that is traveling north-south from the German-speaking part to the Italian-speaking part via the most important transit route across the Swiss Alps, the Gothard Pass. It's called the Gothard Panorama Express, and it is a combo between a boat ride from Lucerne on Lake Lucerne that gets you to Flüelen, a small town, and there you board this first class only panoramic dome cars experience that gets you on this historic rail line. And the experience that differentiates the Gothard Panoramic from other trains is you have local guides in person on board of the trains, and they introduce you to the important history of the region, its many myths and legends, and that is why this journey is so different from all the other ones, north-south, and perfect combination with all the traffic that goes from Panini Express or the Glacier Express, or also the other ones that are coming, such as the Golden Pass over here. Now we're all the way west, as you can see on the map. From the shores of Lake Geneva, where the vineyards are, you travel on the Golden Pass, Panoramic, up towards Gstaad. That's just down on this picture, a fashionable ski resort place, and then over to Zweisimmen, and you connect from there over to Interlaken. That's the Golden Pass line. The Golden Pass highlights along the Golden Pass would be Glacier 3000, the mountain excursion, Gstaad I mentioned, which is only minutes away from the French-speaking part of Switzerland. As these names clearly tell your part, Gstaad is German, Châteaudet is French-speaking. You travel across the language border, therefore, and also between the lake shores down at lower altitude to the high valley of Gstaad. So this is a very scenic journey as well. It's 2 hours just over to Zweisimmen. If you connect all the way to Interlaken, it's 3.5 hours. And from Interlaken, you would move on the Lucerne Interlaken Express. As you can see on the map, that's the continuation there. That is also a journey that is officially a premium panoramic train because it is so spectacularly beautiful along the lakes, the many waterfalls, across a pass, Brünig Pass, partly on a cogwheel, and it's only an hour and a half between Interlaken and Lucerne, and that train runs hourly all year round. And that's specifically the reason why you don't need a seat reservation for this premium panoramic journey, because the locals get on and off at every small station in between. So that's very easy to fit in a journey like that on any Switzerland itinerary. Now, we were at the so-called official premium panoramic journeys, only the 5 ones now, but beyond that, there is a ton of what we call just scenic routes, and they are very scenic as well, I would introduce to you. For example, don't forget all these wonderful lakes in Switzerland. Such best example probably is the Lake Lucerne. Here they have their cruise boats. They're part of the system as well. They run according to schedule, and that makes it always a very scenic way to discover Switzerland. And just again, to showcase how easy it is to connect, to the left of this picture, you see Lucerne main station. That's where the intercity stops, for example, from Zurich. You walk out of the building and within a minute, you're on the boat. And in between, there is all the buses getting you in all different directions. So that's how easy and short distance it is to connect between the different modes of transportation. That one is a great journey as well. The Lötschberger, it travels from Bern, our capital, all the way down to Valais. That's where the Matterhorn region is, and then over another tunnel over to Domodossola in Italy. It is a regional train, and it is an hourly connection. It is not official touristic because you have all the locals, but you definitely share this kind of trains with lots of hikers or skiers or whatever the season is for. And definitely wanted to share that one here with you, the Voralpen Express. Voralpen means the pre-Alps or the foothills of the Alps. For the Swiss, this is just a simple regional train, one that is slow and that stops on all these smaller rural places, one that that can offer you guaranteed cow sightings on the way. It's such a typical experience for Switzerland. And look at the inside of this train. It's brand new rolling stock, wooden paneled seats. I really like the coat hangers on this train and all the panels that tell you the connections with the stations that are oncoming. So that is traveling in trains the way Switzerland works. That's hard to imagine from other countries how much of a standard our rail system has. So it's not just a premium train system that has the nice trains. Also, just simple regional trains are really state-of-the-art traveling trains. So I definitely would like to invite you to use the trains beyond what you already know on the map. Then what would Switzerland be without a mountain excursion? There is over 1,000 cable cars and cogwheels or funiculars connecting with these beautiful peaks above the towns and the resort places of Switzerland. So make sure you always fit in one of these, such as this one here, that is the Mount Pilatus right above Lucerne, historic cogwheel train, or the Gornergrat with the best view of the Matterhorn. That would be your extension with the Glacier Express, for example. Or the Jungfraujoch, that's what we've seen at the beginning with the cows next to the cogwheel train. The station of this train is all the way on top here beyond the letters of Jungfraujoch at this pass, at this call up there. Hardly to imagine that there is a rail station underneath the mountain and the huge glacier there. So this is a really spectacular journey that fits on every Switzerland itinerary. Out of Interlaken, and now you can also glide with this brand new cable car, fast cable car, that cuts travel time up to Jungfraujoch dramatically. It's the Eiger Express, which opened a year ago, and it glides in front of the Eiger North Face. Such a spectacular journey just to get up to connect with the cogwheel train up there that gets you to Jungfraujoch. The Mount Rigi is also a famous one, lower altitude, a bit of a different region. It's above the shores of Lake Lucerne, and Rigi has been operating since 150 years. That was actually the first cogwheel in Europe to be operating, and obviously that's why it's called the Queen of the Mountains. It has such a long tradition as a mountain excursion already, so that is always part of a typical Switzerland itinerary. It can be traveled year-round, so no matter whether it's summer or winter, they keep that mountain open and running. Schildhorn, you remember this place, this fantastic view place from famous James Bond movie that was produced in 1968 on Her Majesty's Secret Service. That was all held up there, and that place is still up there, and it's a spectacular viewpoint high above Interlaken. So that would be a great excursion for that specific area. We've been talking about the Cabrio-Stanzerhorn already. That's the open top deck gondola, very innovative, iconic excursion. You see Lucerne right in the middle of the picture, in the background there by the lake. So that's in the greater Lake Lucerne area, an excursion to go for. Same for Stoos. Stoos is actually an mountain resort town, and that sits above a vertical cliff where you can simply not build roads. What we build instead there is an funicular, which is now officially the steepest funicular in the world, and that's the connection up to this mountain resort. So just by itself, a spectacular journey next to all these avalanche barriers here, vertical way up a cliff on a funicular. That's just considered regular public transportation in Switzerland. So there is a number of beautiful mountain excursions to choose from, 3 of which have the yellow sticker on here. They are included in the Swiss Travel Pass, and I'm just going to briefly talk about the Swiss Travel Pass here. So whenever you have an itinerary that includes the Swiss Travel Pass, some of which do also with the vacations by rail packages, the Swiss Travel Pass is your entry ticket to Switzerland. It's more than a train pass. It is your hop-on, hop-off tickets to all the trains, all the buses, and all the scheduled boat services. So free to go on and off. You don't have to think of buying another separate ticket and so on. And that's the whole convenience about the Swiss travel system. It is very flexible, therefore. It is very family friendly, as kids up to the age of 16 can travel for free along there with their parents. And it also includes the museums. And we're talking about 500 museums here that are part of the Swiss Museum Pass, which is included with the Swiss Travel Pass. It's not a selection of second-tier museums. It's really the official museums you want to go for in Switzerland, like the Matterhorn Museum in Zermatt, or the Einstein Museum in Bern, for example. So that's a great added value with the Swiss Travel Pass. One aspect I just wanted to share a picture here to give you some inspiration. Should you not find a seat in the second class car, go and look for the restaurant car on these intercity connections and sit down and have your lunch on board of a train. That's freshly prepared also. That's usually a great experience and mostly available on the intercity trains that are running in the lowland and connected cities. Another aspect that I really wanted to share with you is we all should care about our ecological footprint while we're traveling. Once you're in the destination, you can really make a big difference by just having a rail pass and use all the public transportation network. Fantastic example for that here is again the Bermina Express with the turquoise Lago Bianco in the background. That's actually in the reservoir, and with that reservoir they produce their own electricity to 100%. So it's not only a beautiful sight along with the glaciers there in the background, it's also an intercombination of how to showcase the nature and how to use it to your favor also. Traveling by public transport in Switzerland is really the simple best way to reduce your ecological footprint. Only walking or cycling would be a better way too. You produce so far less, actually 27 times less than if you would be driving, the equivalent of CO2 emissions. Even compared to an electric car, you're still far below in terms of emissions. And for SBB, the Swiss Federal Railways, the majority of trains are run by hydroelectricity, and for the Russian Railway, that's the Bermina Express company, that's actually 100%. So that's a great example how to use it in a very renewable and sustainable way. And that's not only since people care about it, it's since a long time they navigate with that approach. And also there's a strong competition about different companies to provide a sustainable experience, and it's closely monitored and watched and demanded for. I would like to share the link to our apps here. There is a Swiss Travel Guide app that has the whole integrated map of the Swiss travel system and the timetables on it. There is also a Grand Train Tour app. If you travel along the Grand Train Tour, make sure to download that, because you have the notifications and it tells you what are the must-sees along the trip, and you can collect all your experiences in there. And just referring to the map, really want to highlight that in Switzerland, sometimes it's hard with the topography. If you don't know the country, to figure out what is actually a train and what is a cable car, like in the Bernese Oberland area here, you can see that very easily. So the red lines are the trains. They connect with these dotted lines. Those are cable cars. So that's vertical travel. And that's where it's obviously taking you a little bit more time to get to places. So Switzerland overall is a small place, but sometimes it's impressive how much traveling you can fit in to overcome just the vertical. And obviously that's also where the scenic part of Switzerland is at its best. To conclude here, I'm sharing a slide with the most relevant information in terms of the hopefully over pandemic year. What is the rules and regulations? There is good news. Since February, we basically dropped all the measures. The only thing that's still in place is masks on in public transportation. It's basically the same like over here in the US. But you don't need a certificate anywhere anymore in Switzerland. Dining, events, anything, that's all dropped. The only thing that is in place is you need to be fully vaccinated within the last 270 days. So that's just very recently dropped all the measures. So we're sort of on a similar level like over here in North America. That is me. If I'm not traveling on the Jungfrau train in front of the Eiger North Face, I'm sitting actually with Switzerland Tourism in the offices in New York. And we do pick up a consumer phone. You can text us also as a consumer. We serve you, we help you with itinerary suggestions, with questions. We have a team over here that's been doing that every day, and we hope you reach out to us and we can help you with an itinerary suggestion to Switzerland. And with that, I would like to hand over in the 4 languages of Switzerland: German, French, Italian, and Romansh. So danke, merci, grazie, and grazia. And hand over back to Lynn.
Oh, thanks so much, Martin. That was so inspirational. I felt like I was there. So let's, while we're still inspired, go to our next polling question, and it is, which of these trains are you most interested in? So there's 5 on your screen: the Glacier Express, the Bermina Express, the Gothard Panoramic Express, the Golden Pass Panoramic, and the Lucerne Interlaken Express, which Martin talked to us about. We'll leave this open for about another 15 seconds. I see everyone's already participating, which is great. All right, we're going to go ahead and close this poll. And gosh, 32%, Martin, think that the Glacier Express is the one they're most interested in, followed by the Bermina Express. So
I saw that coming.
You did? Glacier Express is I really enjoyed it the one time that I took that train. So thanks, Martin, for providing the amazing information on Switzerland and its trains. And now I want to briefly talk about some vacations that marry those iconic trains and those fantastic destinations into some well-planned itineraries. And you know, Martin mentioned it earlier that we're talking about the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland. So let's talk about this independent itinerary of ours. It is the perfect way to travel through the country by rail and take in a spectacular countryside while also visiting those beautiful Swiss towns along the way. So as I mentioned, this is an 11-day independent rail vacation. It begins and ends in Zurich, and it takes you on a variety of Swiss rail lines. Now, when we talk about independent travel, we're talking about traveling on your own, at your own pace, following a well-planned itinerary we've put together for you. So here's the beauty of independent rail vacations and this particular itinerary. You have options. There's so many options. You can add or remove days. You can choose 3-star properties or 4-star properties. You can choose standard class or first class on the trains. And you know, Martin mentioned that excellence class on the Glacier Express. If you're interested in upgrading to that, we can accommodate that for you. You can add excursions in any of these destinations. You can add transfers. We can customize this entire itinerary to meet your needs. So this trip is available for departures from May through October. And let's dive into a bit of the scenes from this trip and some of the highlights. So we arrive in Zurich with the day free to discover the city. And on day 2, we ride the Golden Pass Panoramic to Lucerne. And we're taking that train to Grindelwald or Wengen. And the following day, we go to the top of Europe, the Jungfraujoch on the Jungfrau Railway. And the Jungfraujoch it's notable as the highest railway station in Europe. And at the top, you can take in these amazing views of the largest glacier in the Alps, the Aletsch Glacier. And that's the Jungfraujoch. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So you're checking that off your bucket list as well. Our travels continued on the Golden Pass Panoramic to Montreal for an overnight. And on day 5, we continued to Zermatt for a 2-night stay. Zermatt lies at the foot of the amazing Matterhorn. And here you have free time to take in the local shops and restaurants, or you can take an optional excursion on the Gornergrat Railway. From Zermatt, you take a journey on the slowest express train in the world, the Glacier Express. And here we disembark in Chur, which is Switzerland's oldest city. And I mean, it is absolutely charming with its mountain setting and twisting valleys and historic buildings. In Chur, you're going to board the Bermina Express, and that's going to take you to Cherno, Italy. And here we embark on another new adventure. You're going to pick up the Bermina Express bus for the onwards journey to Lugano, southern Switzerland's largest town, and you're going to stay there for 2 nights. And in Lugano, there's the chance to journey up to Montebre, the sunniest mountain in Switzerland, or you can take a boat ride to the picturesque town of Gandria. And all of these particular excursions, they are a bit extra, but should you not wish to purchase them, you can spend time on your own exploring Lugano. A day at leisure is perfect. It's a sunny, beautiful destination with plenty of opportunities for the intrepid explorer. On day 10 of this particular itinerary, you board the Gothard Panoramic Express and travel by first-class panoramic carriage to Flüelen, and then board that historic paddle steamer Martin was telling you about and cruise across Lake Lucerne. And then on the last day, you journey back to Zurich by train. So let's quickly recap the highlights of this itinerary. It's rail journeys aboard 5 scenic trains, meals, including lunch on board the Glacier Express. You have an excursion to the top of Europe, the Jungfraujoch, a Lake Lucerne cruise. And on this itinerary, we include a Swiss coupon pass, which provides attractive offers in 11 destinations. So the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland is the classic itinerary, but did you know there are 2 other Grand Train Tour choices? If you want to experience this itinerary, but you really enjoy traveling in winter, ask a rail specialist about our Grand Train Tour of Switzerland in winter itinerary, because that is also available. And if you're partial to traveling on an escorted tour, you want to be with a professional tour manager and other like-minded travelers, we have an escorted version of this trip. And Martin mentioned it earlier. He showed a screen that had both this itinerary as well as our escorted version, which is called Grand Train Tour of Switzerland, an escorted experience. So we're making things easy to determine if you want escorted in the winter or just this original classic version. So all of these itineraries are available online at vacationsbyrail.com, or any of our rail specialists are happy to talk to you as well. So now it's on to our most popular escorted rail tour in Switzerland. It's the Best of Switzerland by Rail, and I think the name says it all. This is a 10-day escorted tour that begins and ends in Zurich. And because it's escorted, you're traveling with a small group of travelers and are accompanied by a professional tour manager. Like the previous itinerary, we're traveling exclusively by rail, so we've included an 8-day Swiss travel pass, and that offers unlimited travel by train, bus, and boat, plus select mountain excursions and admission to over 500 museums. We've also included those 6 scenic rail excursions, including the Bermina Express and Glacier Express, great centrally located hotels, meals, and touring. All of that's included. So as a little bit of an overview, from Zurich, we have an excursion to St. Gallen by train, where on arrival, we enjoy a walking tour of the Old Town. Next, we head off to Lucerne, and since we're vacations by rail, you know we got there by train. And here you can explore at leisure. Martin mentioned some great mountain excursions. So alternatively, if you want to fill that leisure time, you may wish to join an optional excursion to Mount Rigi. And 2 cog railways and a panoramic cable car make the journey up the mountain, and it's really unforgettable. You're going to be in store for breathtaking panoramic views across the Alps into Germany and France. Our next highlight is a full day of travel aboard the Golden Pass Panoramic from Lucerne to Montreal, and here's a picture of that right there. This is a feast for the eyes. You're going to transfer to Lausanne, and we depart for the Swiss mountain resort of Zermatt from there. En route, we stop in Montreal, known as the Swiss Riviera. Here, a nice optional excursion could be a visit to Chillon Castle. When we get to Zermatt, Zermatt's a car-free town. It's known for its great views of the Matterhorn, and the best views are on that ride on the Gornergrat Railway. This is a fully electric cog railway. It's been taking passengers up Gornergrat Mountain since 1898. It takes about 33 minutes to get to the summit. You're going to be treated to some incredible views, including a very different look at the Matterhorn. From Zermatt, we take a journey aboard the spectacular Glacier Express. It's a really unforgettable journey. Martin covered it really well. We're going to take that to Zermatt, where we embark on one of Europe's most spectacular and breathtaking train rides on the Bermina Express. So we're covering all of these amazing trains again. And our last train trip of the tour takes you from Zermatt to Zurich, where we have a final night of sightseeing and a farewell dinner, and then you can depart the next day from Zurich's International Airport. So to recap, 8-day Swiss travel pass featuring unlimited travel on Switzerland's transportation network, plus its select mountain excursions and admission to more than 500 museums. We get 6 scenic rail excursions, a visit to St. Gallen, a day trip into Italy, and a Zurich city tour. So in addition to both of those, which we've covered in independent vacation, we covered an escorted tour. Now let's talk about rail and cruise. One of the things that is really unique about Vacations by Rail's product line is our Vacations by Rail and River Cruise in Europe, which are great summer and fall getaways. Our rail and cruise vacations in Switzerland feature great land touring to the best of Switzerland, including those incredible rail journeys we talked about, like the Glacier Express. And we mix this comprehensive land touring with premier river cruising. And when we talk about Switzerland, that is on the Rhine River. And our river cruising is on 5-star Amadeus cruise ships and offer unparalleled levels of luxury and elegance. The cabins are really spacious with modern conveniences, excellent food, and wonderful ports of call and included excursions. So wanted to share a little bit about that. As well as winter, we touched on it briefly with the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland in winter, but Switzerland is the perfect all-season destination. And to show you what we can experience in winter, you really don't have to look further than a winter Swiss rail vacation. Enjoy the magical moments in quaint villages like Sils Maria or larger resort towns like St. Moritz or Zermatt, where winter sports really do reign supreme. These train journeys run throughout the year, so they're not only your direct transportation, but a wonderful way to showcase the majesty of the Swiss Alps and the snow-blanketed valleys throughout Switzerland. We do offer a number of independent winter rail itineraries, each showcasing this season. So that complete collection is available online, and any of our rail specialists are also happy to help you select just the perfect one if winter is really of a lot of interest to you. So we're short on time, so I want to launch our next polling question, and then we'll get to some questions. So our last polling question is, in what season would you like to visit Switzerland? So we'll go ahead and leave this open for about 20 seconds, give everyone a chance to participate. Okay, let's go ahead and close this poll. Martin, it is close. 36% of our attendees really think summer is what is they're most interested in, followed by autumn at 34%.
September and October are fantastic travel months to Switzerland. That's after the summer holiday, like in many other destinations. That I would hardly recommend as a favorite season.
Wonderful. You've convinced me. I'll do it. If you'd like to learn more about our rail vacations in Switzerland, you can request one of our brochures by calling 877-929-7245 or visit vacationsbyrail.com. So to make a reservation, you can contact any of our rail specialists toll free. The number is on your screen, 877-929-7245. You can also book online at vacationsbyrail.com. And my little insider tip for you is the rail specialist who assists you with your first call or email will be your dedicated contact until you return home from your trip. So now it is time for our Q&A section of the presentation. So Martin, we have a question for you, and this is a great one. How is luggage handled? You mentioned a luggage transfer service.
Yeah, I briefly mentioned it. In Switzerland, you can ship luggage from everywhere to everywhere. And you just, the easiest way to do is you just walk up to the rail station, you drop your suitcase, your ski bag, your bike, and whatever, and it's going to be shipped to your destination. But that obviously takes a day and a half or two until it arrives there. There is services in places that are less flexible. They need to be booked ahead, but with those you can do door to door. So you really leave it in your hotel and it's going to be shipped to your next hotel and in the same day. That's more of a relevant service for you, but that needs to be pre-booked and planned ahead, obviously. But the majority of the luggage services are very convenient, flexible, and they are designed for the home market. And the Swiss, they do that all the time, especially when it's about outdoors with all the equipment. That's my style of traveling in Switzerland as well. I just leave it at any rail station and it's going to be shipped forward. But there, again, that takes 2 days until it's delivered.
All right, thank you. Does the train go to Lake Lucerne?
Train to Lake Lucerne. The Lucerne, the city, has the rail station right by the lake. That was the picture I showed. Yeah. So, and along Lake Lucerne, there is several rail stations. For example, the Gothard Panoramic Express that we looked at. That is from the station of Lucerne with the boat across the entire length of Lake Lucerne. Spectacular lake journey. And then it connects at the upper end of the lake. There is Flüelen, a small town, a small pier. The paddle steamer stops there, and you walk over to the first class train right there. So there's several rail stations along Lake Lucerne.
Great. So here's another question for you. We plan on staying in the Bern area next summer. How easily can we access some of the premium panoramic train routes?
Right, so Bern, the capital, or a little bit further up, an hour further up would be Interlaken, the resort town. And Interlaken is connected obviously with the Lucerne Interlaken Express to the east, over to Lucerne, as the name tells, or to the Golden Pass line. And the Golden Pass, the actual Golden Pass train, runs only as far as Zweisimmen, but there it just changed onto the regular train that's connecting all the way to Interlaken. So the Golden Pass line is actually from Lake Geneva all the way to Interlaken. It's just two different trains. So those are the closest from the Bern area.
Okay, great. What are the current COVID vaccination requirements? Are booster shots required?
So your last vaccination has to be within the last 270 days. That's required. It doesn't need to be a booster shot, but most vaccinations obviously were before those 270 days. So for the majority in North America, it is actually booster required, yes. But the 270 days, and that's for now still valid. We don't know how much longer that lasts at all, but for now that is still really required. If you travel in summer, wait. It's probably not going to be required anymore.
Okay.
Really many measures have just been dropped in the last few weeks.
Okay, good. Is English a common language found in Switzerland?
Well, apart from the national languages, yes, English is widely spoken. Several train announcements even are in English as well. And the locals, it's a bit like in many other places. The young people speak very well English. The seniors maybe not yet so much, but it's widely spoken, and especially in the tourism, hospitality industry, in the hotels, restaurants, cable cars, and so on. You will be fine with English, yes.
Perfect. When is the best month for the Grand Train Tour?
We were just talking about fall. Fall is less busy in many ways because the holidays are over. The Europeans have their holidays, some of which till end of August, the Swiss about till mid-August. And fall is usually the time, especially September, when it's still warm and it's a little, I mean, the weather can be a little drier. It's less thunderstorms maybe, but the weather can be anything. It can also be the first snow on the mountains, which can be very appealing as well. But September till early October, it's really one of my favorite times to visit.
All right, great. You mentioned the Bernina Express is your favorite train. Why?
The Panini Express is much more of a compact journey compared to the Glacier Express. It's 4 hours if you do it all the way from Chur to Tirano, but the first half up to St. Moritz, it's actually corresponding with the Glacier Express. That's the Albula line. That's a really spectacular journey. So that's the first 2 hours. And then the actual Bernina line, it starts in St. Moritz across Bermina Pass, and that's where you do the tremendous vertical difference all the way down from the glaciers up there, down to the lakes, and all the way down to the bottom to the vineyards of Tirano. That's the most stunning section for me. So that's the Panini Express.
Great. Martin, can the trains accommodate special dietary needs?
On the Glacier Express, yes. The regular trains depends where there is food service really, but I shared a picture of an intercity train. There is usually a standard menu. There is always a vegan option as well, for example, just but you cannot really have a large selection. But on the Glacier Express, you book your meal ahead in time, and there you really have a selection for all the dietary restrictions.
All right, great. Are the trains and excursions handicap accessible?
So that really depends on which mode of transport. I mean, there is a law that makes it, that orders them to make it handicap accessible. But it really depends very much by what kind of train. You know, for example, an intercity train between the cities, those are flat level entrance, they're totally accessible. But a cable car high up in the mountains, obviously, it's not the same thing. So you cannot have the same level of availability across the entire network. But increasingly, they really built also ramps and accessibility points. And there is one service on sbb.ch, so SBB is the Federal Rail Service that coordinates all these accessibility matters. And there you can also, for all these stations that don't have a train with a flat level entrance, for example, you can book a service, and that's for free, and they help you to get on and board. So that's coordinated centrally for the entire public transport system.
Okay. Next question. How safe is your luggage on the trains? Where do you store it while on the train? So this is if you're carrying your own luggage, not using the luggage transfer service.
Yes. So at the entrance of, I mean, talking about the regular trains, the cars they have at the entrance, there's a large space where you put on your suitcases. They also have you know, these hooks where you put on your bikes or your skis and so on. That's usually by the entrance. And then there's a door where you enter the actual coach. So many people actually drag their luggage in the coach, and there you can store it underneath the seat, for example. There is large racks above your seats where you can store it. I usually just leave it at the entrance, and I watch and so on. It really depends a little bit also where and what time you're traveling. but generally there is not to worry about in terms of safety. But yes, it's self-responsibility, and you watch your stuff, and there is definitely an option to bring it on the train. What sometimes a bit of an issue is if you travel on a beautiful Sunday afternoon where everybody comes back down from the mountains and the trains are packed and full, then obviously it's kind of hard to fit it in the middle of a train, for example. But you can avoid these dense, high frequency travel times, for example, and or use another connection, for example. But generally, there's large space on board of these trains because the Swiss really travel with equipment, bikes and skis. So a suitcase always fits in.
Great. With the exception of the Glacier Express, did they serve food and drinks on the train?
Not on the other ones to that extent. I mean, on the Bermina Express, for example, they have a small snack bar, and they pass with a carriage through the train, and you can buy snacks, but it's not the dining experience as you have on the Glacier Express, and neither on the other premium panoramic trains like Lucerne, Interlaken, because that thing runs on a cogwheel. Partly, you could not have a plate on your at your seat for that. And it's also the other itineraries are shorter, like Golden Pass or Lucerne, Interlaken. We're talking about an hour or 2 hours. So that's why they do on Glacier Express, they really have your lunch on board of the train because it's an 8-hour journey. That's a full day.
Thank you. We have time for a few more. Is it easy to get a window seat on the train?
Obviously, those are the preferred seats. There again, differentiate between those that need a seat reservation. If you are on the Glacier Express or the Panini Express, for example, where seat reservations are required, there, depending on the travel dates in the season, obviously the window seats, they go first. They're booked out first. On the regular trains, depending on the daytime and how busy it is, usually people sit at the windows first, yes.
Is there a train with an outdoor viewing platform?
Actually, yes. I should have used a picture of that. On the Bermina line, if you're not taking the panoramic train, there is regular trains, those trains that stop on all these smaller places. It's the same line, the absolute same line. And in the summer months, weather permitting, it's really one of my favorites. On the Berlin line, there's le carrozze panoramiche, so the panoramic open coaches. Those are yellow open deck cars. They hang at the end of the train in the summer months, so July, September, kind of, and only certain connections. And I usually sit on those, and with my GoPro, I hang out there and take wonderful pictures because in the regular dome cars, you can obviously not open the windows, and that is kind of a slow train, so that's really great. And also, it's a fantastic experience if you board that train and the open deck coach down in Tirano. Tirano might be, I don't know what, 70 degrees, warm. You sit out there with a t-shirt. And then once you're getting up to the glacier and you don't have your t-shirt, your jacket nearby, you really feel the difference and how tremendous vertical that train does in short amount of time, and different climate zones and so on. It's really spectacular on that end, yes. So that's the only open deck coach I can think of, because whatever train is faster, obviously it's not allowed. It would be a safety issue to lean out of the window.
How interesting. That's great. How quickly do the trains go?
I get often the question, do we have high-speed trains in Switzerland? Well, we don't have a TGV like in France, because with our kind of high-speed intercity trains from Zurich over to Bern, the capital, it's less than an hour. To Basel, it's about an hour and so on. So we don't have these super flat high-speed lines, but the trains are going really fast also. That means they're going up to 130 kilometers an hour, so that's about 100 miles actually. They travel once in a while on these high-speed sections. But as soon as you hit the Alps, obviously, whatever is called express as in train, it's actually in slow train, because it's about the scenery, it's about the vertical, and it's not about the speed. Switzerland is too small for high speed.
All right. Last question. Do you, or I'm sorry, what are the highest altitudes reached?
So you read and hear of many of highest station and so on. The Jungfrau that I showed on the picture is the highest rail station, where you really have a train reaching an altitude of 11,000 something feet, 3,500 meters above sea level. But there is higher other stations. There we talk about the cable car stations. So for example, in Zermatt, with you can go up to Matterhorn Glacier Paradise. That's a 4-section aerial cable car, and that gets you considerably further up even. That's close to 3,900 meters. So that's like 13,000 feet something. So that's the highest cable car station in the Alps then, for example. So there's, whether it's a train or a cable car, that's obviously a difference there. The same goes for the steepest. There's the steepest cogwheel, there is the steepest funicular, whatever have you, yes.
Wow. Well, thank you, Martin. I'm very inspired to start planning my next trip to Switzerland. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have today for questions. I know there are several that have not been answered yet, so please expect to hear from either myself or one of our rail specialists with a personal reply in the coming days. And I want to thank you for joining us today to learn about the Grand Train Tour of Switzerland and Switzerland's iconic trains and beautiful destinations. We hope you're inspired to start planning your next Swiss rail vacation. And thanks to Martin from Swiss Travel Systems for joining us. Martin, would you like to wrap things up for us?
Well, hope to see you in Switzerland one day, or to see you again. For many of you would be repeaters. And you know, Switzerland, it's packed with attractions. You fit in so much within one single day. You don't have to travel so far because it's short distances. So you can stay in your hotel at the lakeshore down below with a warm, nice climate. You hop on a train, and 2 hours later, you're touching snow somewhere high up in the Alps. And for dinner, you're back in the old town, historic old town, and enjoy a fantastic dinner again. That's how much you fit in Switzerland in just a single day, thanks to this excellent transport system. Go and check it out.
Thanks, Martin, and thanks to you all for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.